Heather's joined, Fuika's joined. Recording started, Clear's here. So leave your microphones on unless you're in a noisy space, in which case we'll just mute you, but it's only just to keep the background noise down as respect for Plandy and others. Where's everybody from? Quick country or city in the chat, please. San Francisco, Evelyn, London, yes, Italy. MK from Mark, Munich. Wow, where else? Dallas, you're up early. India, Switzerland, another MK. Bangalore, I can't say it. Netherlands. Any more? Dubai. Cameroon. Oh my God. What an incredible list. France. Yes. Hi, Guillaume. Great to see you. Love it when you join our sessions. London. Yes. Very good. Wow. Okay. Right. Strap in. This is going to be an incredible couple of hours. Blandy, let's have an introduction.
It's really good to see a lot of people from around the world, because that's what is the metaverse about. It's about being really international. So as you can hear, I'm French. I'm based in Malta. And I just introduce myself really quickly because this will go very fast, these 2 hours. I am a metaverse and NFT trainer and consultant, and I am working with Digital Mate, which is a French agency, and also I have developed my own network called Metaverse Architects to provide clients with the many different skills they need to develop a metaverse and NFT project. So let me share my screen and we'll start with this presentation now. Okay, so I will start now. Okay. So this is really a workshop. So I'm really aiming at explaining the key concepts behind NFTs and the metaverse. But really it's supposed to be interactive. It should be an exchange. So really feel free to interrupt, ask questions, challenge some points, add anything you find useful to this discussion. We are not too many, so we should be. It's a good size, so we can really interact. If you want to scan this QR code, you will be able to download the presentation, and you should also be able to add some notes and participate to some quiz questions later on. So take a few seconds to scan it. I will show it again later. Is that okay? Let's go.
Let's go. Great.
Okay. So I'm starting with this little disclaimer. I think that's really the most important message I want to send through today is that this is a very, the metaverse, NFTs, cryptocurrencies, it's a really fascinating world. It's also very, very risky and volatile. And in no case, this presentation is giving you any financial or legal advice, which I strongly recommend you get before you start developing any project. That's very important. And I hope you will be inspired and maybe even inspired to do some investments, but bear in mind that this is a really, really risky world because it's very new as well. So really these 2 hours will be about really discovering the key concepts behind metaverse, NFT, so the Web3 really. And I really want to give you an overview of the main metaverses. And then we will have an hour on really doing NFT case study, discovering how they work with the metaverse, and we'll do a brainstorming in groups to discuss what the criteria are to select and choose a metaverse. either to develop a project or do an investment. And if we have more time, then we'll be able to discuss questions, any questions you may have. What I suggest you do to really take a piece of work away from this workshop, I think it's very interesting to do this SWOT analysis, which is a very basic marketing tool, but that's something we should all do. I really think it's good to do every year, just to gauge your personal or your company strengths and weaknesses, and what the opportunities and risks are for you. So that's something you can do on your own with everything maybe you will learn in this workshop, and maybe you can complete that later this year when you learn new things. Hopefully that's something that will be useful to you. So Web3. So all these concepts of metaverse, NFTs, virtual reality, I'm sure all of you have read news. There's lots of buzz around these key concepts. They are all part of an internet revolution. I think we can use the word revolution, which we call Web3. That's very important to understand what Web3 is and how it fits in the history of the internet. And the big question that we need to really reflect upon is really, is it a real change? Is it going to replace the internet we know? Is it going to really change our behavior? Is it going to happen? Is it happening now? Is it happening maybe in a few years? These are questions I'm still asking, and I encourage you to really be enthusiastic about these this new internet that we are seeing, but also be quite critic. Like, is it really happening, or is it a lot of buzz? So the Web3, really feel free to participate. Web3 is the new generation of the internet. It's actually a word that has been invented by a man called Dr. Gavin Wood, who is the co-founder of the Ethereum blockchain. That's quite important, because it means, and it has been invented to mean that the Web3 is actually a decentralized internet. So the notion of decentralization is very important in Web3. It's also a more decentralized internet that should actually fix the internet we know today, which is, as all of us know and complain about, we know an internet that is very centralized around some big companies, like typically Facebook, obviously, Meta now, who control everything, own the data, and that's really not fair. And the Web3 is aimed at bringing a more democratic internet. It's also a more intelligent internet, which we know as the semantic web, which is basically an internet readable by machines, and it's also a more immersive internet. So the Web3 is really the sum of all these new improvements. And this new generation of the internet is based on technological improvements. So obviously, virtual reality, also intelligence, artificial intelligence, and the blockchain. So I think the blockchain is very important. I think for a lot of us, we see the metaverse and the Web3 as immersive through virtual reality. But the blockchain is very central to it, because that is the blockchain that brings this level of really decentralization and ownership, individual ownership to people. So obviously, Web3 is built on metaverse, NFTs, Dapps, and DAOs, which we are going to see later. And it's really a new, paradigm. It's a new economy, which we call tokenomics, which is basically the ability to trade and sell items through tokens, which are really currencies, which are totally decentralized, which means really independent from any company or state. Okay, so just I think really to really understand where we are today with this new internet, it's important to go back in history. So really quickly, we could really write a book on that, but that's it's important to see the evolution of the internet, which has been incredibly fast for, I guess, for the youngest of you that have, maybe if you're only 20, 30, you have seen the last part of the history. But for people who have seen the birth of the internet, you know how much development have happened throughout the latest really 30, 20 years. It's really amazing, and that's really important to reflect on that, because it means the new internet and the new technologies can happen very fastly as well, and can become mainstream very, very fast. So it's really important to understand what is happening, so you can be more in control and win out of the situation, rather than really lag behind and miss opportunities. So really, the Web 1 was the early age of the internet. I don't know if you can remember it. It seems very, very old. It was really when we could actually read information on the internet. It was very basic, very static. We would use it on desktops. So it was really the first layer of the internet. Not interactive at all, not really, not very intuitive as well. And if you remember as well, the very beginning of the internet was very messy, very disorganized, and not intuitive, which is important to remember, because that's probably the state of the metaverse today. It's quite disorganized, but it can evolve very fastly as well. Web 2 is the interactive internet. So it was really the big development was the social networks, obviously, and the ability to use the internet on mobile phones. And Web 3 is a write and own internet. So it's a token economy, which means really we have all these layers of the internet. We can socialize, but we are operating on a decentralized network, and we really have the ability to own and monetize our content. And on top of being able to use it on desktops and mobile phones, we are going to be able to really be immersed and use and live experiences through virtual reality and augmented reality. So again, this quotation is about control and ownership of digital identity and data, and that's very central to the Web3. So as you can understand, the core concept in Web3 and the metaverse is this decentralization. So decentralization is built on the blockchain. So the blockchain, it's quite technical. It doesn't need to be very daunting, and we don't all need to understand how it works in details. I think it's really like a mobile phone or the internet. We don't really understand how it works. What is important is to understand how to use it and why it is such a big technological invention. It's very important to understand the benefits of it. So the blockchain is a cryptographic and secure technology. Cryptographic means really it's coded, and it's the most secure technology we can use today, which is very new, and it's very reliable. It's decentralized, which means basically that the data are spread through a really high number of computers, which means nobody owns it, and it's actually even more reliable than if it was centralized in a big company. Even if some of these nodes, as we call them, some of these computers disappear, there is still such a high number of computers, part of the network, that it's very sustainable. So that's very important. It's transparent, which means basically it's like the blockchain is really like a big book that anybody can access to. And I will show you that later, like how you actually read through this book. It's very important because it means it gives a level of transparency and really honesty. Like nobody can really hide transactions. You can really see everything. So everybody can read the blockchain. Everybody can write on it and participate, but nobody can destroy or alter anything on the blockchain. So that's really, I would say that's really what I suggest you remember. And obviously, if you want to read all the details, why it works, how they work with blocks and how the transactions work, it's very nice to understand, because the more you read, the more you trust it. There are different types of blockchains. There are obviously public and private blockchains, permissionless, permissioned. You will be more used to, you will see more open and public blockchains for the broad public. And then maybe in some companies, you will see private blockchains. What is important to understand is that you have two different types of blockchains: proof of work and proof of stake. Very shortly, because I'm not going to explain the details, the proof of work are the most reliable type of blockchains. They work through mathematical competition of really big computer farms that ensure the computers that are part of the blockchain are very efficient. Proof of work blockchains are typically Bitcoin and Ethereum. They are very reliable. They are also very energy, they consume a lot of energy, so they are polluting. It's important to know that. But there are probably the ones people who want to use for really big transactions, or when you really need to store and send data in a very, very reliable way. Proof of stake blockchains are based on really people participating into the network through they put a lot of money on stake, typically really the equivalent of $1 million to be part of it. So if they fail or if they do anything wrong, they can lose a lot of money, and they are also rewarded for participating. So that's how it works. It's much less heavy. You have less computers, let's a smaller network, so it's much more energy efficient. That's typically Solana or Tezos, and this explains why these are used with environment-friendly projects, and also they are less expensive to run. So these are the blockchains you will use when you don't want to pay fees for transactions. So obviously, I will highly recommend these ones, but it depends really on the project. And then you have another level of blockchain, which are called layer 2 blockchains, which are basically even lighter networks built on a bigger blockchain through bridges. For example, Polygon, which maybe you have seen or you will come across at some point. Polygon is a layer 2 blockchain of Ethereum. So it's very, very efficient, very light, very easy to use. You don't need to pay fees, but it's lighter as well. And you can always send your belongings, your NFTs, from this layer 2 to the layer 1. So send it to the bigger network. So it's quite technical. It's important to know that, because you will come across at some point, you will see these different blockchains, and it's good to understand why they are different. Okay, so as I said, no need to really understand the technical, all the technical elements of the blockchain. What is important is to understand what it brings to the market, what it brings to you, and why it's such a powerful technology. So it's very, very secure. It's a new level of security that we haven't seen before. It's transparent. It's also a technology that enables certification. So anything you put on the blockchain is written on a book that nobody can destroy. So it's a certificate of authenticity, which proves that your work, whether it's a piece of art or a movie or a transaction, it's unique, it's verified, and it's time-stamped, which is important because it has an element of historicity, which is incredibly disrupting. I give you an example, which is quite recent and which I find is really, really good, is Alfa Romeo cars. They are developing a new car, and the car will come with an NFT, which is a certificate of ownership on the blockchain. And this NFT will actually be a book of maintenance of the car, which means all the history of the car and when it has been built and maintained, and the number of miles it has will be proven on the blockchain, which is quite disruptive because in some places, like typically where I bought recently a car in Malta, and I was really not sure what I was buying. How do you know it hasn't been really changed? So this is very, very disruptive, and this is an example that you can imagine can be applied in many, actually in every segment of the industry. So this can be it can apply in many different areas. It can be used in healthcare, in supply chain. Supply chain obviously is really important because you can imagine the transparency it can give to the end customer. And actually something I read recently as well is that it can also help fighting slavery in the world, because we can actually track the history of typically some activities or some boats. So it can have really beneficial, really inspiring use cases. So I'm going through quickly, then if you want to read more details, you will be able to read the whole presentation. So we're still going to go through some key concepts which are really important to understand when you want to understand the Web3 and the metaverse and the NFTs. And these are words you will see in news, in articles, but also when you will navigate through metaverse and NFT platforms. So a DAO, I'm sure some of you know already, but it's important to understand how it works. It's a decentralized autonomous organization, which is basically a form of governance that is working without a hierarchy, and it's decentralized, which means it's actually working through a program, smart contract, running on the blockchain. So at the moment we are talking about the Ethereum blockchain. It's very new and disruptive. It's quite bizarre in a way, because obviously you wonder how it works, but people can be part of a DAO when they are part of a project which is linked to the blockchain. Typically, I'll give you an example. There is a DAO running the metaverse Decentraland. And another example is the Ethereum name domain service. And people can participate when they own tokens. So they have an interest into it, and anyone is really open to anyone. And they have rules written on the smart contract on the blockchain. And people can vote and really take decisions. So it's really great. It's really a new concept. It has pros and cons. Obviously, it's very democratic. Anyone can participate. It's not run and centralized by a big company, but it means also that anybody can participate. So it may lack maybe skills, management, and a vision. So that's what we can say. It's working through a program. So you don't really have people in charge of really anticipating and really reflecting on where the organization is going. So that's something you will see quite often on new services developed around the Web3. Dapp is another jargon and buzzword. It's very simple. Dapp is a decentralized application. So you all know what an app is. Today, apps are centralized. So any app you see on your telephone, it's really a program with an interface, but they are centralized. A Dapp is the same. It's an interface and a program, but the program is a smart contract, or it can actually have more than one smart contract, which means a program running on the blockchain. So it's just a decentralized application. Some examples can be, again, the Ethereum name domain. It's a good example which we invite you to look at. The concept really is to be able to own your domain name without being dependent on an organization to hold it for you. So it means even if the organization disappears, it still is going to be on the blockchain, and it means it's not owned by a big company. So it's quite interesting to see how it works. So just in short, this picture really explains how dApps and NFTs and smart contracts fit together. So really you have the blockchain, which can be any blockchain. The most famous and the most used today is Ethereum. And you have decentralized application running on the blockchain. And on decentralized applications, you have these smart contracts, which can create NFTs. So smart contract, I think a good way to understand it, a smart contract is really a program running on the blockchain, and you can see it as an NFT factory. It will actually create NFTs. So any NFT you buy or find or win are linked to a smart contract. I keep going. Let me know if you have any anything to add or any question.
Yeah, let's just give your voice a quick break for a second, Blandine. Wonderful stuff so far. I'm gripped as you go through this. So we've got 33 of us in the room. So who's done this so far? Who's minted an NFT? Who's maybe sold an NFT? Who's played around with this? Just put a yes in the chat, or okay, Alison. Yeah, can you put your microphone on for a second, Alison?
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. How are you?
Yeah. I am good, thank you.
Can you talk us through what you've done so far then?
Yes. I first came into Web3 last November, and I went on a bit of a learning journey, and one of them was obviously about NFTs. What are they? So I then had to set up a hot wallet. So I have a MetaMask wallet. Mm-hmm. So then I obviously had to buy some ETH. And then in doing that, I had to use Transact to get money from my bank account directly into my MetaMask. And then from my MetaMask, I then had to join OpenSeas. Well, that's the one I chose. I know you could do it from a few now. I didn't know at that point. I joined OpenSeas, and I first went to buy an NFT called Unstoppable Women and Remarkable Women. I saw both of them minting, and so I went onto their public sale and I got one from Unstoppable Women, and then with Remarkable Women I got scammed and I bought one that wasn't a Remarkable Women one. And so then I have been buying NFTs by up and coming female, not just artists, but groups. So I don't generally buy them from an individual artist, I buy them from groups. and to help them develop a community. But when you buy the NFT, you generally need to join the Discord so that then you can participate.
Okay. And if you don't mind me asking, how much are you spending on these typically, Alison?
So those ones generally, I'm going to do it in US. I don't know why I do it in US as I'm in England.
You've got the same accent as me, but
but I do everything in either. So generally like 0.8.
Okay.
So anything from 0.5 ETH to 0.8.
So they're quite a bit of money, aren't they?
So they, I mean, they're like, they can end up being quite
thousands of dollars, isn't it?
Yes.
No, so an ETH is currently 3.
No, 0.08. No, I'm not spending that many thousands.
So you're spending hundreds of dollars,
one,
then, aren't you?
I'm spending hundreds of dollars on them. I was thinking I'm not. So they're about, sorry, it's not. So each 0.01 would be about $30 for those who might not know. So I'm spending between 0.05 and 0.08. And one at the most. Yeah, that's, I have bought a couple that are like $300. But generally, and I was scammed with one of those as well. So, but they're all for charities, children charities, or female artists or groups.
We'll come back to the scam in just a second, because I suspect the group want to hear about that. But the question that we were asking today is fad or future. But you're sort of in between those, really, aren't you? You're doing this because it's supporting, it's encouraging, it's inspiring, it's fun. It's slightly different, it sounds like, for you.
And if I had my camera on, you would see that what I did is I sent my NFTs for printing, and I've now put them on the wall.
Well, that's wonderful.
But somebody did say to me one day that if I sell one of my NFTs, I might have to send the person the actual picture, because realistically they would own it. But I did that just because it kind of, I don't know, it made sense. Then I could see them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, and I think it's a good idea to own the physical piece as well. Many NFTs. I think the successful projects, they offer digital ownership, but also physical ownership and experience, and it's really it's really good to have both. Scams is a topic we could really spend a couple of hours on as well. I really hear so many scam stories. And I think that's why it's important to understand that behind an NFT, there is a smart contract, and that the blockchain is transparent, because actually before we buy an NFT, we can check through the smart contract address, we can actually check on the blockchain who the owner is, what the transactions were in the past. You can actually see so many public information, and that's probably the best way to spot a scam. And just make sure it's an NFT, because some NFT platforms provide will let you buy NFTs, but in reality they are not minted yet, so they are in reality just ownership of the platform. I'll give you a couple of examples, Willie. Sorare, which is the French, football cards company. You can collect cards and you can mint them, but until it's minted, it's not an NFT. And also the Curio NFT website. So you have many platforms and websites typically for collectibles, where you can trade your cards, and you think you own an NFT, but actually it's not minted, so it's not an NFT. So the only way to really be sure the NFT is an NFT on the blockchain, and it belongs to who you think it does, is to check on the blockchain. So checking something on the blockchain is not very difficult. You have to go on For Ethereum, it's called Etherscan. Bitcoin has its own website as well. It's very easy. You just look for, sometimes you just see the smart contract address. You can click on it and check. I will show you that later if we have time, but it's quite easy. And then when you will be on it, it looks very lots of numbers, lots of data everywhere, but you can get used to it. It's still not very intuitive, and I suspect it will really improve, because that's really what people need to be able to do. It's good to know you can do that, and that's the only way around, I believe. And can I ask as well, if you paid gas fees when you purchased your NFT? I think that's an interesting point as well.
I mean, I did. I spent gas fees on all of them, even the ones I minted on sites where I was on the whitelist. So if I was on the whitelist, the only gain I sometimes got is that you could buy 3 or 4 and still got it at the lower rate because they're using the new contracts. But generally, all of them. The only thing I find is being in the UK that we will sometimes be buying at times when the US aren't, and therefore the gas fees do seem to be less at this end, from my experience, to what some of my friends in the US are paying.
And yesterday, they were very low yesterday for some reason.
I think it was Easter. I noticed the whole world wasn't on Twitter. All of the people who are usually on Twitter and around, it was very quiet. So I think definitely people took Easter.
But, so yes, that's one thing. We can find better moments to pay less gas fees. Gas fees, so everybody understand, I really don't know how much you know. Gas fees are the fees we pay to do a transaction on the blockchain, because you have all these machines, all these computers working to build the blockchain, and they have to be rewarded. That's why we pay these gas fees. They can be very high. They can be up to, like sometimes I have seen $250, so sometimes even higher than the price you pay for the actual NFT. And they can be very unpredictable as well. I have really heard of people not even noticing they were paying these gas fees. So it's very important to be very focused when you do such operation, and really do it slowly. Make sure you are prepared to pay for the fees that normally are transparent. You should see it on your wallet, but it's very easy to do a mistake. And also it depends on the blockchain, whether you are on a proof of work or proof of stake or layer 2 blockchain. If you do transactions through Polygon, Polygon is really used on many metaverse, typically on the Sandbox and Decentralization. You have the opportunity to buy things in Polygon, and that's a layer 2, very efficient, very kind of light. But it doesn't matter if it's if it's just for an accessory or a digital takeaway of an event. We don't need to have a really secure blockchain. I think that's really good. So you need to remember that you have really these different levels of blockchains and fees associated to it.
Is there anybody else that would like to share a story? Anybody who's created an NFT on this call? Just put yes in the chat. We can have a quick conversation about it. Maitza, have you?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm a bit of shy, but
not here, not with us.
it's just that I don't have experiment in NFT. Just I've heard of it, but I have a lot of friends because I am an artist in my free time, but I have a lot of friends that is full-time artist. And I'm really interested to have some advices about audio NFTs and images NFTs. So I don't know if I'm at the right place for that.
Yes, yes, you are. Depending on how really specific your questions are, I really think it's important to understand the basics, like really what is behind an NFT. I have seen many artists, and obviously if you open any platform, any NFT platform, such as OpenSea.
Yes, I know there is OpenSea. I know there is Binance NFT as well, but I don't know much of it.
Yes. So OpenSea is really the biggest platform for NFTs, and I think they trade more than 92% of all NFTs. So they are really the major one. I think it works really well. You have probably dozens of different platforms for NFTs, all specialized in different type of arts. It's really worth, before minting an NFT project for artists, it's really worth doing a comparison, a study. And the first thing you want to look at is on which blockchain this platform is running. Because that will mean a lot. It means how much you are going to spend in gas fees. Do you have the budget? How much your clients are going to be spending? Do you have values that you want to convey? Like typically, if you are, if you want to have an environment-friendly project, you'll be careful on which blockchain you use, and you have different styles, different segments, different targets for each platform.
See, I'm following. Sorry, the internet connection is not that right. But is it possible to keep contact? And do you have a replay, or do you share the presentation after this event?
Yes, and actually we are recording it, and you will be able, if you have scanned the QR code, you'll be able to download it. And obviously feel free to get in touch with me.
Okay, thank you very much. I want, I don't have all my English, sorry. Thank you very much.
Please get in touch. What I think is really powerful for artists, because we are talking about art NFTs. Again, it's a smart contract, which is producing the NFTs, which means you can actually program a lot of things in the NFT. So either through an NFT platform like OpenSea. OpenSea is basically a smart contract with an interface. It's a decentralized application, okay? And because it's a smart contract, you can program functionalities. And one of the functionalities you can put is the intellectual property. Typically, the ability to gain royalties on first, but also secondary sales. And this is why NFTs have been such a revolution for artists, because finally it has given them the ability to get royalties on their art when it's sold, and sometimes gains value over time. So that's really disruptive. And this is something that can be applied for brands as well. Like any brand, any luxury brand is now able to get royalties for life on any secondary sales. So this is why you see so many projects, particularly with big brands. And that's really a change of paradigm for IP.
Okay, thank you very much. Indeed, I've seen with Hermes, with their bags and so on. So thank you very much for your time, and I keep following.
Okay, thank you for participating. So let's keep going. So I keep going. On the blockchain, you have different types of assets. So we are not going to go in much detail into cryptocurrencies, which really is a vast topic and very financial. It's important to understand that cryptocurrencies are really the currencies of the blockchain, that there are many different blockchains. Anyone can create a new one quite easily, I would say. And there are many, like a really high number of cryptocurrencies. They are not regulated by either a private bank or a public state, which means they are censor-proof. And it's a very, unfortunately, the timing now with the war in Ukraine is a terrible time. It's also a very interesting time with regards to the blockchain and the cryptocurrencies, because now we understand the value of it. Nobody can actually freeze cryptocurrencies assets. So obviously it's a big topic and a big debate. It's a problem, and it's because it's not controlled by any state. It's also very extremely volatile, very risky. It's also a good thing that some people in some countries, like if you take countries where the inflation is very high, or you don't know what your house is worth, or you can lose everything, cryptocurrencies are also a way to spread your risk in a way. And they are really like all the transactions on the blockchain are and on the metaverse will be made in cryptocurrencies. So as you mentioned earlier, you have a wallet. You can do your transactions through a wallet. And you have two different types of wallets. The hot wallets, which are really easy to open, it's really linked to it's an extension on your browser, very easy to use, but also very vulnerable. It's very easy to scam, steal money on it. So it's something really to bear in mind. It's very easy to lose and be stolen money on your hot wallet. And I've also heard of people buying stuff on metaverse games without noticing it. So it's quite risky. You also have cold wallets, which are not connected to the network, and they really look like USB keys. Like typically, the Nano wallet is a type of wallet. It's a brand, and it's a good idea to have, especially when you start to have valuable belongings, NFTs, and money on it. It's a good idea to have these two types of wallets. It's really like in real life. You have your purse in your pocket, and then you have your bank account, which is safer in a way. So again, any transaction you do on the blockchain is open and transparent to anyone. So it's anonymous because your identity is actually hidden behind a secret, an IP, which you don't have to share with everybody. You don't have to put your name on it. But at the same time, anybody can track the transactions and the ownerships linked to a wallet ID. So be careful with that, obviously. And then you also, as I said before, it means you can also check the IP address of someone you are trading with. So the cryptocurrencies are many. To date, there are more than 10,000 different cryptocurrencies, which is really incredible. The top ones are the Bitcoin and Ethereum. Bitcoin is still the biggest and the most secure. It's the most secure blockchain. Ethereum is number 2, and Ethereum is really the one that is heavily used in the NFT market. And then you have many different cryptocurrencies. Solana and Cardano are linked to proof of stake blockchains, so less energy consuming. And there are also cryptocurrencies which are backed against the US dollar, called stable coins. So some people will want to change their cryptocurrencies into stable coins because it's less volatile. It gives it's really a good way to even up the risk. So as an artist or as a creator, I'm not giving any financial advice really, but I think it's a good idea to, if you suddenly get a lot of Ethereum or Bitcoin, it's a good idea to maybe change some into stable coins. And if you have the curiosity, I strongly recommend looking at the charts showing the level of volatility of the cryptocurrencies. They will do like this. So it's really the roller coasters for people who want to speculate on it. So the new paradigm around the Web3 is it's really built on tokenomics, which means really you have really, instead of having standard currencies or standard certificates being exchanged, we have tokens linked to the blockchain. And tokens can have, tokens actually mean two things. You have fungible token and non-fungible token. Fungible tokens are really tokens you can exchange one for one, so typically cryptocurrencies. And non-fungible token, it's different assets that you cannot exchange like for like. Non-fungible are typically NFTs, so they can be a piece of art, they can be any asset which is unique, like a wearable, an accessory on a metaverse. So it's really like in the real life, and this is how cryptocurrencies and non-fungible tokens differ and work together. The concept of tokenization is, again, it's a real buzzword. It's really important. It means anything, but really virtually anything, either in the digital world or in the physical world, can be tokenized, which means represented through tokens and digital assets on the blockchain. So this can be typically a loyalty card, but also it can be a property, like typically a car or a flat can be tokenized and shared into a high number, and actually a very high number of different tokens, NFTs, and belong to, so the property can be really shared between a number of people. So it's a new concept. It still is very new and actually difficult to understand in a way, but this can really change the way we consume a lot of goods and a lot of properties. And it can really disrupt many industries and many models. So NFTs, I can see the time is running, so we will go fast. So we have some time to do the brainstormings and discussions. So NFTs really are certificate of ownership on the blockchain. So you can really see an NFT as a receipt, as a deed, and really as a record on the blockchain. It's a certificate. It's not the actual good. It's very important to understand that. Like typically for a piece of art, when you have the NFT of a piece of art, you have the ownership of it, but only the record of only the certificate is actually written on the blockchain. The actual file, whether it's a picture or a movie, it's not on the blockchain. It's stored on a decentralized platform, usually called IPFS. There is a lot of confusion on that. And why is it the case? Because if we put all the heavy files on the blockchain, it would be really too much and too much data and too energy consuming. It doesn't mean that you don't have the ownership of it. You do have it. So it represents a unique piece. And it's minted, which means minted means really written on the blockchain by the creator. Which means as well that for a creator and for an artist and for a brand as well, minting something on the blockchain is the proof that you are the creator of the item. So for artists, typically, it's really valuable because nobody can actually copy them. They will have the proof and the history on the blockchain that they are the creator. They can use the blockchain as a way to protect their intellectual property. So NFTs are mainly, historically, and mainly running on the Ethereum blockchain, and they are very often referred to as ERC 721 or ERC 1150. ERC is the name of the protocol. It's a standard. The concept of a standard is very important in NFTs and in the blockchain, because a standard means that it's interoperable, which means you can take your belonging from one world to another. And whether it's ERC 721 or 1150, it's more of a technical difference, not really important. It means it's on the Ethereum blockchain and it's standardized. So you have many, as we discussed before, you have many different NFT platforms, which are very, very intuitive, very good to use, because you don't need to have any technical knowledge or really, and it's almost free of charge. You just pay some fees, the gas fees, obviously, and fees to the platform, but it works really well. And as I said before, these platforms, they are running on smart contracts. For bigger companies, it's also a possibility to actually create your own smart contract which will be a cost, because obviously you need to find a programmer that will do that. But having your own smart contract gives you the possibility to deploy a bigger project without having to pay fees for the platform. And the smart contract is a program. So if you do that, you can really customize and write anything you want in the program and actually create a new type of NFTs that can change over time, transforms, or hold a right to enter a network, or it can be both a ticket and a piece of art. So it gives you a lot of freedom. So actually, if you look into some NFT projects, big brands are using bespoke smart contracts to really have more creativity in their projects. But for small, I would say for small projects, it's really enough to use a platform. So we have really many different types of NFTs, which I guess you have seen for most of them. Maybe some of them you haven't come across yet. Obviously, artworks, collectible cards, gaming. Gaming is really a big segment in NFTs. Actually, the biggest one is collectible. Estates, lands on the metaverse are NFTs. Domain names can be NFTs. Can be an event ticket, can be an accessory on metaverse. So I have chosen a Ukrainian accessory. I think it's really nice to see how we can actually use the metaverse to promote value, to raise awareness, and people can buy NFTs to give more visibility to the value they support. Brands as well, but what they support, and give money to charities. It's a very efficient way to raise money for charities. An NFT can be a financial asset. Obviously, it's really a powerful technology used in financial services. I don't know if some of you have ever come across the PWAP NFTs. PWAP NFTs are proof of attendance, which are not very famous yet. I think they are my favorite ones. I really strongly believe in proof of attendance NFTs. And I could do a whole hour on it. Proof of attendance NFTs, it's something you can get when you attend an event. It's a souvenir. It's like a digital takeaway that you can keep in your wallet and keep for really your entire life. It's not going to be it's not going to disappear, or when you, like, for any piece of paper you have, when you want to keep a ticket because you love the concert, you'll end up losing it, or someone will destroy it. It's really on the blockchain, so you have it for forever. But a POAP can also represent a certificate that you have attended a training, for example, or even a degree. We can really imagine that in the future, the degrees we get for schools or universities can take the form of a PWAP. Because anybody—
No more lying on LinkedIn, eh, Blandine? No more lying on LinkedIn, huh?
Yes. It will be maybe more of a blockchain CV that anybody can check. Because you can, in reality, you can put anything you want on LinkedIn.
What's your view on that? Do you think that we'll get social medias such as new LinkedIn versions that are reliant on the blockchain? Because, you know, it's a different business model, isn't it? This sort of guaranteeing what people are. Do you think it could fit into LinkedIn, or do you think it would need a new kind of company?
Oh, that's a really big question. definitely the Web3 and all these new technologies of typically NFTs, they will be built. They are not replacing the Web2. They are really an extra layer. So they will be built upon and linked to the social networks. Then whether it will be still the social networks we know today or new ones is the big question. LinkedIn, as we know it, is centralized, and the theory and really the core element of the Web3 is decentralization. So if LinkedIn adapts its model, and I would say really if Meta adapts its model as well, then maybe we will still have this running onto LinkedIn, but there are many projects at the moment being developed to bring a new form of social media on the blockchain. We will see what happens.
Yeah. And looking at your wonderful slide there and our title of the event again, I know that you didn't authorize fad or future NFTs. Do you feel some of those have got more of a future and some of those are more fads?
Yes. So my personal view, really, I would say at the beginning of the NFTs in 21, I was really fascinated by the art NFTs, which are still great NFTs. But now I believe that NFTs, because they are actually smart contracts, they have really the ability of being really multifaceted, and they have a utility. I think the NFTs that will really be more popular next will be the ones that really are used for something really useful. I'm not saying it's not useful to have a piece of art, but for a lot of people, it's not really valuable to have a piece of art in the form of an NFT. So I'm really not diminishing it, but for a lot of people, it will be really meaningful to hold a ticket to an event as an NFT, and then it can be associated to a piece of art. Yeah, I can see the NFT being like a stamp or a credit card, which means like a stamp, typically it holds a piece of art, which is really nice, it looks great, but it's also used for a transaction.
What do you think?
Two NFTs that will have different facets.
So Richard, you've got your camera on. When you look at those, what looks like fad or future to you?
So yeah, you know, as people will have seen in the chats, I'm one of the shall we say older people on this call, and have seen technology develop, you know, from the internet being invented and so on and so forth. In my corporate role, one of the things that we looked into and had quite a lot of excitement around was blockchain as being a decentralized distributed ledger, where it was basically a step up on improved authenticity. So I'll give you a couple of boring chemical industry examples. When I get a certificate of analysis of some lubricating oil that I'm going to put in a compressor, that certificate of analysis is very easy to forge. And so as a consequence, on many occasions in certain countries in the world, we would get counterfeit lubricating oil, which meant that our compressor, which cost $10 million, was at risk of being damaged. And so one of the things we were looking at in these very boring industries, there's actually a lot of certification that's required. Certification of materials, certification of consumables. So that's one of the things that I think is really a very solid value proposition around blockchain. I can also see, as Blondine was explaining, I could also see along a similar note, if I have a ticket to go and see a concert, right? Something that is authenticated through the blockchain and perhaps has an NFT associated with it will help to reduce the forgery and fraudulent use of tickets at concerts, which is a big deal. Many people buy tickets for concerts on the internet, go to the concert and aren't let in because the ticket that they bought off the internet is either has been sold inappropriately or whatever. Where I start to get into the fad thing is if I'm actually out there in the blockchain and I'm actually buying something that will never actually physically exist. Now, I'm a person that streams Spotify for my music collection, but I also have 500 CDs on my shelf over here that you can't see. So I think there is, I think this is still a journey that I think we all have to go on. I think in 10 or 20 years, I think the world will be in a very different place in terms of many more people being on that journey. And I think, like with many things, I think one of our challenges is to sort the fad from, sorting the wheat from the chaff. I think there's a lot of value in NFTs. I think there's also a lot of exploitation. I heard Alison, I think it was earlier, talking about her experience in this particular world. My son works in fintech. One of the things that he's looked into, because he's played around with Bitcoin and Ethereum and so on, is that it is the cost of transacting at the moment is very, very high. If you take your real money to Bitcoin, once you've worked through all of those exchanges and so on, I think you end up with maybe 50% of your money left or something like that. Whereas if and so one of the things I would look at is, when you're looking at these things as currencies, anyone working in the finance industry would say, well, what's the spread? What's the spread between buy and sell? If you go to US dollars, you go to Swiss francs, the buy and spread is very tight. Your transaction costs of converting in that environment are low. Some people would want them to be lower. So I still think for me, there's going to be things that will come through here that are exploitative, and it's very unfortunate that people will get scammed and exploited. And it was very brave of Alison to admit to that. But I don't think we should throw the baby out with the bathwater. I think we should be critical in looking at where are the value components. And so that might have been a longer answer than you wanted, Richard, but I've been listening.
It's not mature. It's not mature at all. It's really the early age of still the blockchain and the metaverse and the NFTs. It's really early and not really efficient. I have to admit that the blockchain and these fees it's too expensive to do a transaction. It's too polluting. It's not satisfying as it is now. It is, luckily, it is improving. And typically, Ethereum, which is really the big blockchain for these NFTs and metaverse, is currently developing a new version of it. And it takes a long time, and people have been waiting for it for months. It should happen this year to make it really more efficient. And when you look at the different blockchains working on improvements, it's really, there's a lot of work being done, but at the moment, it's not really good enough, we have to say. So I think at the moment is really the good time to test and learn, as we say, really get our heads around all these concepts, maybe test to really get the experience, but we are not there yet, and the big metaverse are not there yet. So I wanted actually to go through it quickly. Let's go to the metaverse. I think this is important really quickly. It's really important to do the difference between different level of immersion, because there is a lot of mix-up and buzz around the concept of metaverse. It needs to be differentiated from VR. And we have different level of immersion, which is really from going from projection to navigation, 3D. And now really is the time when VR is really developing. But the level 4, which is really the metaverse, has also the element of economy. So there is a difference to do between VR worlds and metaverse. So really, a few examples of metaverses are really the main ones: the Sandbox, Decentraland. Roblox is more of a game. Horizon World, which is the one of Meta. Somnium Space. So these are the ones we know today.
What's bottom on the middle?
CryptoVoxels. CryptoVoxels is really one of the pioneers of the metaverses. It's really, it's not very, very advanced. It's very focused on art and museums, so it's good for that. So each of these metaverses have different styles and different visions and focus and possibilities. But back to what I was saying, I'm saying it's not a mature world at all, because these are the ones we can see. That's the landscape of today's metaverses. But there is a lot happening with big actors in the technology, typically Meta. So we have it here, or Horizon Worlds, but also Epic Game is doing a lot of work and is raising huge investments to develop a metaverse. Microsoft, actually all the GAFAMs are going to enter the game.
And how many of these metaverses use NFTs, Blandine?
All of them.
So to buy land in Decentraland, you'd mention NFT, right?
That's the link. It's the link between NFTs and metaverses. They really fit together because NFTs are actually, they represent any property, any digital ownership on the metaverses, because they run on the blockchain.
So actually, land, assets, building, clothing, sunglasses, the whole lot, right?
Exactly.
And is that just fun, or do you think you could buy a pair of Ray-Ban virtual sunglasses and sell them for a profit in the future?
I think it's really valuable, not because I value it, but because we find really the youngest generations, they really value it.
But they've got a bet on a particular house here, haven't they? Like, you know, because you can buy them in Roblox. I mean, I guess I don't play Roblox, obviously, but then, you know, you're not bringing those into Decentraland, are you? So do people know where they want to buy these accessories for their avatar? Paul, you had a question?
It was more of a comment, really. It was just, I think, the point that Blandine made earlier about this is early days. It was way back at the time of Second Life that you could buy stuff, you know, no problem. It was the financial model. Where I think it gets interesting and new, and I think sooner than we think with AI, is it's not going to be about tokens. And tokens are nouns. We all know what nouns are, they're things. So everyone's buying tokens. And the word that comes out of token philosophically is tokenistic. It kind of suggests they're quite throwaway and so on. Where it gets interesting is when it gets processual. So what will happen in a metaverse is you may well be able to buy the first person experience of someone you admire, someone famous, as they go through a particular part of a metaverse, and you can walk in their shoes. The next step for that is it could be that part of the metaverse is doing private dentistry. And as a dentist, you will be able to buy access to the procedure of a really, really good way of creating a bridge on certain teeth. And what we're going to do is we're going to be buying tokens that are processes. They're going to be AI programs, and there may only be 10 available. And whereas in the old days, a trip to the museum meant that you couldn't buy the oil painting but you could buy a postcard, which was a non-fungible token if it was a limited edition print of just 20. We're very focused on the nouns and have been for ages, but I think the next step, we're going to ditch the nouns, they get thrown away. It's going to be about non-fungible processes.
Mhm. Yes. Yes.
So just a quick comment on that, Paul. Do you think, just looking at, and I'm a chemical engineer, I'm not a social scientist, but do you think what you've described is actually part of society, and certainly Western society, shifting to a desire to have experiences rather than necessarily own tangible things?
Well,
Because
yeah,
I think,
yeah,
yeah.
but it's also about perceived value, because ultimately, if only 20 people can get access to a guitar lesson with an AI Bob Dylan that's extremely like Bob Dylan, it has to be about processes, because in metaphors, unless we stand still, surrounded by all our stuff, we're moving. We're in a temporal position of time. So at the moment, we just can't code those processes very well. But we will soon, and I think you'll find that NFTs in their current form will be looked back on as quite fun, just like buying a postcard in a museum. But it's when they become animated as processes, and and we can reanimate experts from the past, and we can be coached by Jung and stuff like that.
But why would
and
we want to
that's-
limit that, Paul? If everybody can be coached by Jung, what's
Oh,
the advantage?
only the usual capitalist shite, Richard, about if we limit it, we can charge more and only the rich can afford it.
Right, usual stuff then.
Yeah, because an NFT can be a digital or physical asset, but it can also be an experience. It can be all of it as well.
Speaking of experiences, sorry, hard for me to say in English. You said you've been interviewed in the metaverse. Can you talk about that for a second?
Yeah, hi everyone.
Hey.
I'm Siddharth.
What was that like then?
Yeah, it was really like fascinating to experience actually being in the metaverse for an interview. So how it went was, as soon as I applied for an interview, they sent me a link which directly take me to the metaverse link, and it was a small instruction how you can walk through the app, how to turn around, and all those things. And when I actually went to it, there was this kind of a stage setup. So I'll have to walk towards, and there's a mic, and then I'll have to give them an interview, and the whole interview goes on. It was like a really great experience being in a metaverse for a company who is planning something really big. They haven't really revealed what they are up to in future, but they told me that they're planning something on the metaverse. So if you are being shortlisted for the next round, we'll be happy to explain everything in detail. So I just want to share that experience.
Wonderful. And I mean, is that a COVID thing? Would you have gone to see them in person prior to that, or is it because they really want to get people who love being in these new spaces?
Yeah, it's something that they maybe are trying a new thing with me, and of course they get a lot of feedback from people when they are actually be in metaverse and share. Even I share a lot of feedback. I like this part, and you could have made your entry to as a people to the metaverse much better. I got confused, so they got a lot of feedback. Maybe they are trying to get more feedback, and they have open experience where anybody could get into that place and then share their feedback or talk to people there.
And what are these flam cards then? They're kind of bringing images to life, are they?
Yes, exactly. So when you scan through their app, it comes as a video. That's their current product. There will be an image. So if you scan that image, it'll come up as a video. So if you have a birthday or something coming up, you can share that image, and when somebody scan that comes as a video. That's it. That's what they are currently doing, and they're planning something big on metaverse.
Wow. Watch this space. And what brought you here today? What did you want to learn?
After that, I was much interested in metaverse and the whole Web3. So I was trying to figure out what I could learn more about, what are the community, if there is any group that I could join. So I've been here from the morning. So luckily I got about this event, and then I jumped in.
You're very, very welcome. I read that 16% of men invest in cryptocurrency and 7% of women. What do you think that's about right, or do you think there's things holding people back from getting more involved?
I'm not sure about that. Even I'm really new into this whole metaverse. I haven't minted any NFT yet, but I'm looking forward to it.
Great, thanks for chatting.
Yeah, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Blandine, I don't know if you're going to.
I think the timing is good to do small groups discussions, brainstorm about metaverses and why, what really are the key criteria to look for when we choose a metaverse, either as a user or for a project. If that's okay, I think maybe we do groups of 4 or 5, and then we put everything together.
All right, let's try and do this. Here we go. You've been invited to join some rooms here.
Hey, there's no one else here. Nice to meet you, Mark. How are you?
Where they all gone? Have we come back too soon? Is that
I
what
don't know.
it
I
is?
don't know how long we had really.
Hey, so we did.
Alex is there. Hello, Alex.
If you want.
I said
Yeah,
Alex is there.
hello.
Hello.
I'm feeling so lonely here. You were talking about cool stuff, and I'm here waiting.
I have to admit, I'm also keeping an eye on, where's it gone? It's Priti Patel, but it's going to be Boris in a minute. And they're going to have a vote on whether he's going to be impeached, basically.
Let's hope not. I don't know. I mean,
Well, no, they could sell NFTs of him, taking a drink.
It was a workplace bubble. It was. He didn't know there was a cake turning up. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I was ambushed by a cake. How are you doing, Alex?
All good.
Yeah.
Enjoying last 15 minutes.
Any more protests going on outside your house in Serbia?
No more.
No more. No one's protesting now.
I believe we've had enough.
Oh, well, that's good. What time is everyone coming back into here?
I don't know. I asked when to close the rooms, but it seems the conversations are going really great. So I kind of feel sorry to interrupt people, but let's keep a few more minutes.
No, I'm just going to run to the house and get some tea and bring it up here. It won't be long.
Good idea.
Oh, good. Take care. I need tea.
Are you not on camera, Alex?
Sorry. Can you repeat my
I said I just wondered if you'd not got a camera connected, that was all, or you were just a bit shy or what, I don't know.
I'll turn it on. Wait a second.
It's all gone very quiet. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, I got your reminder on, I think it was on LinkedIn about this, I think, wasn't it?
Yes. I'm the one who kept reaching out.
Well, you're heading people in the right direction all the time, I suppose.
That's in the right direction. Hopefully you enjoyed the presentation so far.
Yes. I was going to say, you don't know any more about the South Central Institute of Technology's rollout of the college, like fit outs and all that, do you? As Richard
so we have just a few more events within this project. So we have one event by Paul, we had this one today, and one inclusive forum by the end of this month, and that's it in this project.
I think I'm on the holes later on though. I think I'm missing 2 of them later on in the, that's a shame, but because they are interesting.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I mean, we'll keep organizing these things just in another format, in another way. But it's really been a wild ride, and there's so many interesting topics that just need to be covered and needs to be discussed about. Well, and we don't know what to talk about first.
I think it's going to be a while before NFTs take off big time, though. Really, I do. I think it's going to need Apple or somebody like that getting into the market a bit more with VR before it starts taking off. I think, which is apparently it's going to happen next year. So you never know; it might really start going, bananas.
It's just going bananas right now.
Well, I suppose it might well be for you, yeah.
It's really important to discuss around these topics and to see like the real life experience. We see like big brands adopt NFTs, this and that experience in metaverse, this and that experience, but it's all about real life examples for real people in real lives. Like, have you tried it? What's your experience?
Yeah,
and then share it, because
as I say, I've knocked about in spatial quite a bit, but and alt space VR and stuff like that. But
and Somnium Space as well. I've had a look at that a few times, but I actually created that metaverse space for spatial with the AI Tech Zone. I don't know if you've seen it on my LinkedIn posts, but it's like a meta space for the artificial intelligence community in Milton Keynes. But it's Rich.
Let me Google you.
Yeah, well, I mean, just look to put my LinkedIn profile and you'll see it on there. It's one of my posts, but you get the link to click on it and you can go to my space. There's a big like robot head in a horizon of the dawning of a new sort of tech era kind of feel to it. But anyway, I've posted that out a couple of weeks ago, and I've had a bit of response asking other people asking me to create spaces for them in the spatial metaverse. So I'm starting to get work in it by the looks of things, which is a good thing, really, because exhibition stands is what I'm used to building or designing, and obviously a lot of world travel and stuff's taking a bit of a hit. So international exhibitions are not as big as they were, and there's some of the smaller ones that I used to design for are just not getting the people, attendees going to these shows and stuff. So I am looking to move into more metaverse creation, you know. So that's what I've been doing in the last sort of year, trying to get into that. But,
yeah, but that's a great idea. I mean, it's always nice to experiment with this and get your own experience and your own lessons, if nothing else.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a big learning curve, so you do need to, you know, get on board and start figuring stuff out. Oh, are we?
Hello, welcome back, everyone.
You're back in the room.
Thank you so much for a nice talk.
Yes, great.
Oh, so time is flying. I think we've been discussing different things in our group, which shows how much debate and questions there are around it. We need to wrap up this question of the criteria to choose a metaverse. It's as we were saying, there is a lot of news, there is a lot of buzz on different metaverses, and I think it's important to say that because it's such a potential market, and there is a war on who is going to be the big metaverse, there is a lot of marketing happening as well on the space. And it's not because you read that this or this metaverse is going to be the biggest one that this is the truth. So it's this is why I wanted to do this exercise, to really see what measuring elements we can look at to say that this is a good metaverse or not. And because we are going to have many different metaverses as well. Some will fit your project and your client base, and some will be irrelevant. So if you have found some criteria and you want to participate, some of you, I think I was just to maybe I start. I think one of the important one is whether it's decentralized or not, which in a way, is it really a metaverse built on this concept of decentralization on the blockchain, or is it actually centralized? So that's the criteria. Anybody wants to share their findings?
Did you see that Meta is going to charge 50% transaction fee for things that you purchase or buy? That's a true centralized strategy, isn't it? Really, just lay it out.
They're so wrong. They're so wrong. Well, a lot of people are really waiting for Horizon World to happen because it's supposed to be really the big one. That's a big element. I think that's a big criteria to look at. Is what is the vision of the metaverse? Some metaverse, like the Sandbox, their vision is really that it should be beneficial to the users and the creators and built on the blockchain as a creator economy. Decentraland is really totally decentralized. Meta, indeed, 47%.
I mean, it's fascinating. I mean, dare I say it, it's a brazen move. And the only reason you would do it is if you believe you are going to create a monopoly, that people will have no choice but to pay your fees. So you may as well push them as high as possible.
This is probably their strategy.
Probably.
And they said very early on, actually Nick Clegg was saying a few months ago that for them, the metaverse is commerce-led. So there's no mystery around it. And it's really designed, and they have also patented a lot of really great but invasive technologies, I have to say, that can measure the way you look. So are you interested in buying this product? And it can be very pushy and invasive.
But they live, breathe, sleep, eat monopolies, these companies. We know this. I'll share this one very quick story. A friend of mine was in the room when Alan Sugar from Amstrad wanted to buy Office from Bill Gates. So he's literally sitting in the room with Alan Sugar and Bill Gates. And Alan Sugar says, we want Office. And Bill Gates says, absolutely, that's $95 a seat, but you can't buy it. But for $100, you can buy Office and Windows. And Sugar says, no, we don't want Windows. We've got an operating system already. And Bill Gates just says, let me save you a lot of time and a lot of hot air. You have to buy Windows. They just live and breathe monopolies, right? And that's the danger, I think.
Yes. And that goes through the devices people will need to use to experience the metaverses through virtual reality. And typically Meta and their Oculus device, that's what they are trying to do. But exactly like what Apple is doing with the iPhones, you have no other way than going through their system, and then they take a fee on the apps. That is exactly the same system. And that's what we call also decentralization, re-centralized. So that's really not where I think we want to go. So everybody is really free to use what they like or what they want to use. I think it's important to really learn and still be very critical. And it's quite likely that users, at least some users, will not want to use the Meta for these reasons.
What do you think, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to remember, I mean, they've sold what, 7 million headsets, and they've lost $300 or $400 on each of them. So they've got to reclaim some of that money back somehow. You can understand it when you put it like that, why they're doing this. And as you say, they're trying to get a monopoly on the market early doors before Apple start jumping in and everyone else starts jumping in. So
how many headsets did you say they sold?
6 or 7 million, I heard. And they've lost $300 or $400 on each. I mean,
what's that?
$700 or something I heard it cost to make a headset for the Quest and the Quest 2. And they're selling them for $300. So, you know,
that's $2.8 billion loss.
They've lost all that money. So they've got to try and reclaim it. I'm not justifying it because I think it's ridiculous.
In some regards, no different to razors and razor blades, and that's been around for, that model's been around for 100 years. Certainly 50 years. You sell a razor at a loss, and you make all the money on the razor blades.
Printers,
printers, cartridges. I think one of the things that I think is interesting from a commerce standpoint is if you look at something like the London Stock Exchange or the New York Stock Exchange, and you compare the market capitalization of the London Stock Exchange, as in the market itself, compared to the total capitalization of companies that are listed on the London Stock Exchange, and the transaction fees that the stock exchange charges, that's kind of the old world, right? It's like going to an old-fashioned market in a English industrial town where I grew up, and the stall holders would pay pennies per week for the privilege of having a stall in the marketplace. So the person that owned the marketplace there was a very low market fee for being in the market and that allowed traders to flourish. That isn't the modern model. Yeah. I
mean, just to come back to razors, I mean, if you looked in the shop, I mean, perhaps a printer is a better example, and you said this printer's $500 and this printer's $50. They're exactly the same, but this one's got a camera on that watches you all day.
Yes.
Yeah.
You think twice, wouldn't you?
Well, I'm not sure how many people would, Richard. I think one of the interesting things in these spaces, and I don't, this is, there's no nice way to put this, is just as we've discussed in previous sessions, who actually reads the terms and conditions when you download a piece of software? You just scroll to the bottom and click I accept, because you either accept and get the software, or you click don't accept and you don't get the software. The vast majority of people that are making transactions, who are being drawn into any new space, then they're just looking at it on a pretty simplistic basis.
I think if the camera on the printer moved around the room when you did, that's what we get. That's actually what's happening, isn't it? Really?
But then they designed one that you couldn't see moving. It actually moved. But
that's where they've gone. That's what they're doing, isn't it?
Just to be absolutely clear, the reason I've never played Space Invaders is I'm still reading the terms and conditions.
I've got a jump, team, but I won't close the call or anything like that. Blandine, thank you so very much. It's been a wonderful couple of hours with you, and of course,
yes, for me as well. Let's wrap up. Really, I think it shows that there are many questions and debates, and again, I think this really is a very young Web3, which is going to develop very fastly. And so let's really discuss again for all of these different topics. Would really can be a debate on their own. It was really great to have you all. You can actually get this full presentation actually on all the videos of slides, because 2 hours is quite short. And let me know your feedback and any questions you may have. I'm happy to discuss with all of you.
Thank you so much. That was a lot of fun. And Blondie, thank you so much again for really informing us there. And thanks to everybody just coming along for the session today. I know a bunch of you, some of you I don't know, but it is just wonderful hanging out with people like you every day. Imagine getting paid to do this. If only I did.
I'm heading off. That's great. Thanks all.
You're the best, team.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Blondine. Thank you.